Hello Internet! Dragonmeet is a one-day UK convention held in London, and the Arkham Chronicle woke up its least skilled photographer at silly o'clock in the morning and sent them down for a visit. It has been going for more than 20 years, and for the last few has been held at the Novotel Hotel in Hammersmith. Unfortunately, it is a victim of its own success, and with at least 2,200 attendees this year it had to spread out to all the spare nooks and crannies of the hotel. It took up 3 floors, and there was an awful lot of walking and riding escalators to and fro, making for a really tiring day. There were maps and some signage recycled from previous years, but not enough to confidently know which floor you were supposed to be on. However, if you asked any of the purple-shirted staff, they were able to tell you. And better still, actually walk you to the place where you wanted to go. So that was amazing. In fact, this was a very well-designed event. The aisles were nice and wide to try and stop crowds bunching up and allow access for wheelchair users. There were either seats at the side of the trade halls or areas really nearby where you could take a breather and have a quick rest. There was free water everywhere you went, and we didn't see any station run dry, run out of cups, or be strewn with litter. There were also bars on all the floors where you could get a cup of tea or a wide variety of paid-for drinks. At hotel prices, obviously. This is primarily a role-playing convention, so the number one product on offer was dice. Dice, 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 dice. Dice to hang on your Christmas tree, dice as art to hang on your wall, and even a dice advent calendar. There were edible dice in different flavours from our friends at Honey Badger Games. You did have some board games being demoed in the trade hall, and plenty for sale, from serious James Bond game Spectre to wacky Kung Fu Panda, plus the odd miniatures game you could participate in. The convention opened its doors before the event started, so you didn't have to queue outside in the freezing December cold. There were plenty of places to sit down, and the board game library was open right away, so you could try out a game of something while you waited. This year it was run by LudoQuist, the board game cafe in Croydon, South London, that we have mentioned previously for their excellent Arkham Nights events. Speaking of Arkham, there were 2 epic multiplayer card game events there, if you knew where to look. These were very last minute, and we definitely want to give a big shout out to Ben for stepping up and organising and running these. Also to LudoQuist, again, who donated 2 copies of Fortune and Folly. As well as by the same token who donated a set of blob-themed Doom tokens to everyone who took part. And they were kind enough to drop off both this year's and next year's unique reward tokens for our patrons. Thanks, guys! The trade halls were on 2 floors, so if you found something you liked the look of, you should buy it right away lest you forget which floor you saw it on. There were convention-only deals and discounts, and at the end of the day you could certainly try and haggle for a bigger reduction. Shopping online definitely saves you money, but here was a browser's paradise. You get to actually pick up and flick through those expensive limited edition books to see if they are really worth it. And ask questions to many of the UK publishers who were happy to chat as well as sell you things. Sir Ian Livingstone was there all day promoting his new book about how he founded Games Workshop in 1862 in a disused shoebox in Tut Middle Tut Road. And James Wallace made an appearance at the Aconite booth pretending to be Zorro in that nifty mask of his. Our friends at Free League were there selling copies of the new Blade Runner RPG to the public before we even got our review copy. They even had sets of those most elusive Forbidden Lands dice, and the T2000 GM screen. A great British tradition is the bring and buy, where you bring along your old games in the hope of selling them to other attendees to get cash and make space for those new games you will be picking up. This looked to be expertly organised, with everyone booking their items in online before the event and dropping them off in the morning before the convention opened. It was a modest-sized collection, taking up about 3 rows, but there was a fair amount of turnover. You had Kickstarter limited edition Ruins of Symbaroum to Eclipse with extra spaceships and playmat. There was Lovecraft in many flavours, from Old Call of Cthulhu to Trail of Cthulhu to a hardback Masks of Nyarlathotep companion, plus Arkham Horror in many flavours including 2nd edition plus expansions, Eldritch Horror and Final Hour. In fact, there were a lot of FFG games, including many Game of Thrones boxes, the very rare Battlestar Galactica and expansion, in Italian no less, as well as classics like this Warrior Knights, which was originally a Games Workshop game back in the day. Speaking of recycled Games Workshop games, Rebellion were there in the trade hall with remakes of the classic Judge Dredd board games. The one on the left was actually designed by Sir Ian Livingstone back in the 1980s. We could have got him to sign it. But the undisputed star of the bring and buy was, no, not that Chivalry and Sorcery, but a copy of the Fantasy Flight Games update to Milton Bradley's 1986 Fortress America. For only £15? Oh, later, why did you not buy this the moment you saw it? Such a missed opportunity. There were UK RPG podcasters making live recordings, but it did seem a bit mean to stick them in a corridor next to an escalator. One of the things we mentioned in our preview video were the seminars, and this being a London hotel, they had plenty of posh rooms and chairs which were actually comfy. Things we sat in on were a Mega Games seminar with 4 accomplished presenters that seemed to be well attended and well received. There was a 40k seminar, which from the tiny blurb on the website we assumed was GW announcing their 2023 plans, just like Cubicle 7, Modifius and other publishers were doing in seminars. But it was just a bunch of content creators doing self-promotion. These were all very nice people, and it was a wholesome hour, leaving us with some new names to check out, but definitely wasn't what we were expecting. Then it was on to Cubicle 7 in the hope that some more revelations about their quietly announced 40k RPG Imperium Maledictum. It was supposed to be chaired by company founder Dominic McDowell, but he had an emergency and handed it over to one of the other staff members. The bottom line is they are converting as much of their staff to be compatible with Dungeons & Dragons as possible, much like many publishers are. Doctor Who, their flagship RPG, will be getting a D&D edition, complete with Player's Handbook, Book of Adventures and Monster Manual, available in a neat TARDIS slipcase, plus the usual GM screen. So you can have companions with character classes and Daleks with armor class, and psychic paper and sonic screwdrivers as magic-ish items. Hold on to your top hat steampunkers, as Victoriana, one of their longest running IPs, is being rebooted for 5e, with a Player's Handbook, Book of Adventures and Monster Manual. We have to say Cubicle 7 definitely has some amazing art. Uncharted Journeys is a new D&D sourcebook on travel. Broken Weave will be a new D&D campaign setting, described as tragic fantasy where the gods are dead, the land is shattered, and you make new magic items from harvesting the beasts you kill. Only the Games Workshop licensed games will stay with their current rule set. Remember Soulbound? That is still going, with more books and more lovely artwork. There will be lots more Warhammer Fantasy roleplay books, including Lustria. The presenter then ran out of time before he even got to the large amount of Wrath and Glory books. But these things here look like they are new things in the works. No details about them because, as mentioned, he ran out of time. Which meant no more details on Imperium Maledictum. So we cornered the fellow later at the Cubicle 7 booth and encouraged him to talk. This is what he had to say. It will be a 40k equivalent to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, with as large a range. Expect 6 books a year, roughly 1 every 2 months. The first products will appear in Q1 2023, maybe very soon. It's a game focused on investigation with a noir detective feel like the Warhammer crime novels. It will explore all of the Makarian sector up to and possibly beyond the edge of Imperial space. The rules will be more streamlined than current Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Next week's Cubicle 7 newsletter will have pre-gen characters for all the roles in the game. The week after that will have the rules for designing your own patron. All information is subject to change. As we are currently running and playing a Rogue Trader campaign using Fantasy Flight Games' D100 system, you can bet we are super excited by this news. And we'll probably find an excuse to get it in front of the camera. Now that wraps it up for this video. As our first convention since the pandemic, this was a really great event. Let's hope they find a bigger venue next year. Special thanks to the Cubicle 7 marketing team for supplying us with the slides at short notice so we could expand our coverage.